Hello world, can everybody hear me okay? Looks like we already have lots of folks that have joined and questions are already rolling in. So apologies there for the technical difficulties. Never fails every time. So excited to be joining everybody for our second Ask Me Anything. Really fun to see all the comments from last time. We even had some folks, I think of a fellow named Ratted MC, created a live stream of a live stream. We watched that and appreciate it. Thank you. And a quick intro before we just jump in and start answering questions. You know, we're hard at work here at IFT on a new set of features and things that are really targeted at some of our most loyal and sophisticated users. We've spent really the last 2 or 3 years primarily focused on our business customers, the services and brands on the platform. And I think we've really done a disservice to many of the power users that got us here, that actually allowed us to create a business around offering something to the brands themselves. And, you know, so first I apologize for that. You know, we're still a very small team and can kind of only focus on one thing or another at a time. And we're shifting our focus now back, at least in part, to the users that have been asking for all kinds of new ways to create IFT applets, multiple conditions, you know, things like that. And so I think finally some of those things are going to start rolling out. And because of that, I want to make sure we're getting reconnected and hearing feedback from folks on a regular basis. So with that, let's go ahead and just jump in. I'll try to scroll up and see some of the questions that have already been asked. If you asked some questions even ahead of the start of the stream days ago, I think those for whatever reason have disappeared. So you might have to re-ask. The questions I see now started at about 10:50. The first one out the gate is Chase, and he's actually asking for something. I just spoke about. He's asking if we have plans to have multiple conditionals or perhaps additional triggers. And so I think this might answer a lot of questions because it's one of the kind of top items of feedback that we've heard over the years is, you know, people want to create more powerful, more complex applets, not just if this, then that. And it's something that, you know, I think honestly we pushed off for too long, largely with the best intentions. We knew that at some point we would turn what is really a very simple and elegant tool that is accessible by many people into something that's really akin to another programming language. And we've really tried to avoid that. But I think we've got enough folks that want it, and I think we've identified a way to do it that will maintain that simplicity for a lot of users that aren't quite ready for a full-on programming language. And our plans are here later this year to launch the ability to add what we call queries to if this and that. So really think of it as if a trigger, you know, next run a query, and a query is basically a way to get more information. You know, what's the current weather? What's the current time of day? What's the next calendar on my Google Calendar? Are my lights on or off? So you can basically kind of, you know, get information to then use in the next section we're adding is what we call filter or filter code to start. And that'll be JavaScript to start, but we want to make it, you know, something where you don't actually have to know JavaScript to utilize it over time, but it will allow for you to evaluate that information, both from the trigger and from the query, and then conditionally decide to run actions or run multiple actions. So we're adding the ability to have multiple VATs or multiple actions on a single applet. So you could then use that filter code to say, well, you know, if it's raining outside, then do this action. If it's not raining, then do another action. And I think that's going to really expand the possibilities over time. And to address it head on, one of the questions we always get is, can we have multiple triggers? We hope that the conditional kind of queries, the addition of a single trigger with a query or multiple queries even, you don't just have to have one query, you could have 2, 3, 30. actually expands out and covers a lot of the use cases. Often when we have multiple triggers in the same applet, it's still something we want to do, but it can really complicate things because now we're kind of listening for different events. It's less about it being a conditional thing, and they're almost like two separate applets almost. So we're excited to kind of hear what are the use cases that people want, and how can we improve what we're doing to support as many use cases as possible. So hopefully, Chase, that answers your question, but it may answer a whole lot of other questions that people might have, because this is, like I said, one of the biggest items of feedback we've gotten over the years. So the next question, per Munster, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, probably not, don't be offended, apologies, is asking, are there voice limitations on Android? So you see that you have a hearing aid whisper emails content to iOS. I'm not quite sure. You might have to give me a little bit more information about that. I feel like Android might not have anything to do with that, or it might be very specific to your service Whisper, and may not be something I fully understand. Yep, Michael G's with Chase says the ability to have kind of more powerful or additional conditionals in each applet is big on that. Hello, Team Naki. Wish I could share some of that popcorn with you. Hope all is well. Really excited to be working with you. Joshua is asking a question about Wisecam. I think the Wisecam only has the detect motion without motion stops. I need to delay to turn off the light after it's on. So I think in that situation, you're probably looking for a different type of trigger from Wise. And so to be specific, it looks like Josh is asking for some type of delay after motion is detected, or maybe perhaps even a buffer. Maybe motion hasn't been detected for 30 minutes or something after detecting motion earlier on. And that's one of the things, Wise is one of our customers, like Naki. So I would point you towards them, ask them, kind of give them your use case, tell them why you'd like to see that additional type of trigger on IFTTT. And hopefully they can get cracking on adding that in. I think it's a really good point. We have some other motion sensors that do something similar, if indeed you're asking about this kind of buffer between when motion was last seen and when things have been kind of still and quiet. Let's see, an anonymous user asked, are there any plans for charging for the IFTTT service? So, and I think this might address a number of the other questions we've heard from other folks. So, to be really clear, our business has been growing at an incredible rate. We doubled year over year for the last 2 years, but it's primarily, or in fact, actually only focused on the brands themselves. So the brands that you see on the platform, the different services, those currently are our customers. And we have different plans. There's a very kind of easy single price, for $199, you can get started with IFTTT, and kind of put your brand on the platform. And then we have some other packages that are priced per user if you want to integrate and build, connections or even more powerful applets, go well beyond if this and that and multiple conditionals to basically building a full integration, leveraging the IFTTT platform, and offer that to your users. So that's really how the business has grown over the past 6 to 12 months, is this additional package for businesses that really want to kind of take advantage of IFTTT and really kind of use IFTTT as a replacement or an augment to their own developer or API platforms. Now that said, like I said, we primarily focused on building out the business around the brands themselves. And we've really worked to do that in a way where we're still putting users first, especially in terms of trust and privacy. Users basically have control over where their data goes. That's one of the things we've really built the company around, is giving people control and confidence to decide where their data goes or where their data stays, or what are the things that they don't want to share between the services they have. And so I think one of the ways in which we can kind of continue to invest in that end user audience, and specifically the end user audience that is asking for a lot of the new features and things that we haven't built so far over the years, is to explore other types of plans and building a business around the end users themselves. So that's something we're currently exploring right now, and it's one of the things I'd love to hear more opinions about. If that's something is if something people are willing to pay for, and what in addition to what they're doing today are they most excited about, or would they value the most with some type of IFT premium plan. So if you have questions about that or comments, love to hear them. So yeah, so kind of moving on and skipping some of the comments and things that I've already addressed. Hins Chen is asking, trying to get a webhook to trigger a smart switch to no avail. Sounds simple. Could you help make this happen? So we have what we call the Make Your Webhooks service, and you can basically subscribe to a webhook, create your own trigger. It requires your own backend service or API somewhere, or you get an action. You could get a post request that actually does something. And so if you're having trouble with that, write into support or ping me on Twitter, and I can take a deeper look at see what's up there. Let's see, Tal, you tweeted 5 suggestions. I think I might have just replied to you on Twitter for those 5 suggestions, or at least somebody that had 5 suggestions. So hopefully I answered some of those questions for you, and really glad to hear you're a big fan. We really appreciate it. Paul, you're asking about why Tuya pulled their service and then reinstated it. They blamed us for hiking the price. Lots of others seem to be following suit. Tuya is one of the folks that, is our customer. We've really enjoyed working with them over the years. And, at least from our end, and I think speaking for them as well, there's no real ill will. I think some of the things got misconstrued, or there was some finger pointing that might have even happened from folks that weren't actually part of their business. We really work to be fair. We talked even about the fact that we have ways for brands to work with us at a flat price. And in fact, we advertise that price on our pricing page for $199 a year. And that's it. I mean, really, frankly, that's not even our business. That's really just to make sure people are serious and helps keep the quality of the services on the platform high. So there's all kinds of ways that people can work with us. We're really excited to continue working with Tuya. And we apologize for some of that conversation getting exposed to end users and creating some confusion. And we see other folks joining. We've actually added I think now 50 to 60 services just in the last 6 months. So we're growing at a pretty fast clip again. But at the same time, services are leaving the platform, and the most common reason for services to leave the platform is often that their business is changing or their business is going away. I think that's one of the neat things about what we're doing is if we can lower the overhead for any single business to integrate with other businesses without having to build their own developer platform, they're actually able to experiment a lot more and take more risks. A big brand can actually build and promote an integration with a small startup that may or may not be around in 2 or 3 years without having to worry about all that overhead and that kind of sunk cost if things go away. So that's a problem we're really looking to solve. Let's see. Hinchin, I see your other question about the webhook. So yeah, ping me over Twitter and I'll see if I can't get that solved for you. See, Joshua is asking another question. I have an iPhone. I want to turn off an outlet when the phone is charged and turn on the light when it's no longer plugged in. Interesting. The iOS and iPhones and Apple in general have been pretty careful about what types of things they give developers access to. And my current understanding is we may not be able to access the actual battery life or charge state of the device. I think that's different. On Android, we can. So if you're willing to switch from an Android to an Android phone for that use case, I think you can do that today with IFT. But until IFT and other developers can get access to that stuff on the iPhone, then it's not something that's possible. And kind of goes to one of the kind of founding principles we have is that I think Apple is doing a lot of that restriction of what developers can and can't do with pretty good intentions. I think they've done a lot of good things for privacy and trust, especially with end users over the years. But at the same time, whether your phone is charged or not, that's kind of your information, right? Like, it's not Apple's to decide where it can go and what you can do with it. So I think in a way, there's a problem to be solved there. If users, especially with information that's personal to them, now the state of your device charge is maybe not a huge privacy risk, but again, it's your information, just like the photo you took and uploaded to Dropbox is. And we believe that you should be able to do something with that or connect it to other things if you so decide. Let's see. Don is maybe asking or saying something about a paid tier, better response time. Yeah, that's something. We want to make sure that if we do something like that, to make it reasonably priced. And I think you're spot on. The idea of actually being able to improve some of that response time for applets is one of the things that we're considering making part of that plan. Would love to hear if you could give us feedback here on the stream or even over Twitter, what an appropriate response time would be. And I think this is where for IFT, it gets a little complicated because some of the slowest things that we do, are still polling based. We're kind of asking another service over and over again if something's happened. And that's really hard to do, real time or within seconds, because it creates a huge server overhead. We have to pay a lot of money, and the other service has to pay a lot of money to answer these questions over and over again, where most of the answer is nothing's happened. Now we have APIs and abilities for the services to kind of integrate in a real-time way, basically webhooks, that allows things to happen within seconds. And we're even looking at ways to speed that up as well. So we'd love a little more feedback around what's an acceptable kind of time frame and response time. And, if you can be really specific about which services and which triggers, that would be even better. Okay, I think we answered a lot of the early questions. I don't want to skip over. We're getting a lot of questions. This is great. Let's see. There's a question from Aditya that's asking, can you use a webhook as a trigger? Yes. Check out if you just search Maker webhooks or IFT webhooks, you'll see a service that basically has a trigger and an action that allows you to get an API key and essentially kind of plug in. It's almost like a DIY service on IFT. So do check that out. That should be available today. And I think we got millions of people using that. So it's pretty darn popular for folks that want to kind of do something on their own. Kevin, you love the shirt. Thank you. Not available in the IFT store yet. We don't even have an IFT store, but it's something that everybody on the IFT team gets on their first day. We don't do a whole lot of swag, but this is one of the items, and it's been fairly popular. Let's see. Why do I have to pay multiple companies? This is a great question. So Yosef is asking, why do I have to pay multiple companies for my service? I'd rather pay IFT instead. We appreciate that. One of the things that we've really embraced is really the freedom for businesses to experiment and try different ways to essentially build their business. And I think one of those ways is to offer integrations as part of their premium plan. One of the businesses that I think have done this successfully, even outside of their relationship with IFT, is Trello. Trello has a free plan, and then the second you kind of move into working with a team, you open up, and part of the premium offering is the ability to integrate Trello with other services. And sometimes things get lumped in where either the business themselves or the end users or customers really see it as the business charging for IFT. And that's it's unfortunate. We don't necessarily want to be thought of as like something that a business charges their users to do, as much as if a business feels like they can build a premium plan around additional integrations, and IFT can help make that happen. Well, that's just another way for them to build the business. So I think it's one of the things where over the years, businesses have moved more and more towards premium subscriptions for just end users. People are used to paying for things online now in a way that they just weren't 10 years ago. And I think that's one of the trends that I expect to continue over the next 4 or 5 years. And it's a really positive thing. And I think there's going to be a lot of changes in terms of what's offered in those plans and what isn't. But I think at the end of the day, if a business can really make their users customers, or make some subset of their users customers, it really aligns incentives in a positive way. Customers, I think, have a lot more leverage to make sure businesses are doing right by them. Otherwise, they're going to take their dollars elsewhere. So we support it. We know it can be frustrating, but my hope is, over the midterm, some of that stuff evens out, and businesses, no longer are thinking about charging for IFT as much as perhaps charging for a certain number of integrations or something that IFT can help them actually build and offer in the premium plan. Let's see. Looks like a couple of folks are having some trouble with the stream. Hopefully it's working. I've got a couple folks on the IFT team here on the stream, and they might be able to reach out to me if there's something I can do to make it better. Let's see. Peter is asking, do I have a ghost? Because no human beings can stack books like this. Yeah, that's my vertical bookshelf. So if you can kind of see there at the bottom, there's like a metal platform and a thing there. There's actually a much larger one. You can't see it off screen there. But no, it's not a ghost. It's actually a bunch of metal, and the thing's a huge hassle to move from place to place. Pretty damn heavy. Let's see. Tall is asking, we really need the ability to see what triggers and actions are supported before getting the product or subscribing to a service. You're spot on. We've got a couple things in the works. So one of those is, I forget which platform it is, but I believe on the mobile apps, before you connect a service, like if you're creating an applet from scratch, you can actually view what the triggers and actions are before you actually authenticate. So you can see what you can do before you decide to actually connect that account. And that's not how it works on web. On web, we actually ask you to connect your account and then show you the triggers and actions. And so that's kind of broken, and we're working to fix that. So that's one of the ways. The other thing that we're looking to bring back later this year is just an index or a way to see what services have what triggers and actions and queries as those are launched. So users can kind of browse and see what's possible ahead of actually going into the kind of create mindset. And it's one of the things, in fact, believe it or not, that doesn't even exist for the businesses or the developers on IFT in, I think, a really useful way. So there's a big hole there that we've got to fill to make it easy for end users and developers alike to just figure out what you can do with services, and even perhaps over time provide feedback to those services themselves to help them improve or add different triggers, actions, and queries. Let's see, Ember Blaze, cool name, is asking, will there be an advanced mode where people can use else and or? Yeah, Ember, you might have missed it at the top of the stream. It's something we're working on, and we're really excited to get some feedback from folks about that here soon. But it's something we've really kind of delayed way too long in adding some of that functionality to make IFT a lot more powerful for the people that are ready for it. Let's see, why are some services only available as a trigger and not an action, is a question. And oftentimes that's really up to the service themselves. Then there's different types of reasons. Sometimes it's a security reason. Sometimes triggers are often a little bit more secure, especially if the actions are things like unlocking a door or arming or disarming a security system. Although we have lots of businesses that are doing just that. And I think it really ends up being the preference of the service. So if you see a service that's missing something, then please reach out to the service themselves, on at their Twitter account or support. And oftentimes we see people be pretty responsive if they're hearing from their end users that they want to see something changed or added on IFT. One of my favorite examples over the years has been, our weather service only has triggers, so you can get when it's raining or what the weather report is tomorrow. Often joked that at some point in time, maybe the weather service will have actions, so you can really, make it rain, quote unquote. So coming soon, we'll see. We'll see. It's we'll need a little bit more innovation before that's ready. Let's see. Bestest Mushness, also a cool username, was advised by Vizio security camera that connecting with IF would alert me every time my camera started up. It never worked. So that's a really good point. So in the same way that you should be asking the brands themselves if you want to see something added or updated on the IF platform, if you see a problem with one of the brands, you should take that to the brands as well. Obviously, you can ask us or ask me on Twitter. We're trying to do a better job of being more responsive to end users on support. It's one of the things that we really haven't scaled with the number of users that we've gotten over the years. So we haven't been able to be as responsive as we'd like. But now that the brands are really in control of that, if there are problems and you can kind of point to one of the brands on the platform, definitely make sure they know about it, because most times, they'll be able to go in and fix it, and we're happy to kind of work with them to figure out what that problem is and what a fix could be. Let's see. No Tango Illusion is. Obviously, I'm mispronouncing that, but another cool username. Is asking why schedule example power on off only at 30-minute intervals. You might be talking about a very specific service, so maybe need more info. And if I can't get to it here on the live stream, definitely ask me on Twitter and I'll try to run it down for you. Let's see, Quentin is asking, why can't we publish applets anymore or share them? So you can still publish applets. It's probably a little bit hard to find. I'd encourage you to go to platform.if.com. And there's a couple different links in the header now that can take you there. And you should still be able to publish an applet. Now, it's one of the things that we're considering, whether or not it should be part of a premium plan for users or not. And one of the reasons, for perhaps asking people to pay to publish applets is that oftentimes the people that are willing to pay as end users are often the people that are the best, publishers of applets, the people that really understand kind of how triggers and action work and how applets work, and are often publishing really good applets. The publishing of applets has been one of the things that we've really had to kind of, quote unquote, protect or be careful because it allows some users that maybe have a little bit of nefarious purposes to take advantage of some of our SEO. So people would, publish applets largely just to get someone to click a link. And we've done a lot of work to reduce that. It's essentially spam. But what we'd love to see is not just fewer low quality applets, is more really high quality applets that do something new and different and are really kind of published in a way that adds to the overall value for the rest of the user base. So it's one of the things I would love to hear more feedback around that. If you're someone that has published an applet, what could we do better? What are the types of things we could build or change to make that even better for you? See, Tall, you're saying Maker Webhooks is the best feature on the platform. Cool. Glad you dig it. Let's see. Nick is asking, when your service wants access to my Gmail account, what data do we take or retain? So Gmail specifically, actually, right now, we actually don't access your Gmail data at all anymore. And that's largely a change that Google's made to some policies. They've really made it very difficult for any business to access Gmail. And I think probably for good reasons, right? Like email is literally one of the most sensitive collections of data for any user. If somebody can get access to your email, they can basically log into your account just about anywhere unless you have two-factor authentication. So I think for broadly, that's probably a good thing. But at the same time, again, it's also your data, and there's a lot of cool use cases that we used to support with Gmail when we did have access. Now, speaking a little bit more generally, the way that IFT approaches data and trust with users and privacy of that data is we really work to only access data in any given account because a user has set something up that requires that access, right? So like say you set up a trigger that fires every time somebody rings your doorbell. We then listen for every time someone rings that doorbell, and we then take that data and then pass it on to the other service to run an action. But we're not collecting that or retaining that in any way other than if we have a log, an activity log that we offer to both users and developers, of a certain service, so they can kind of find problems. But we only retain that for, I believe it's about 30 days, and then we throw that out. So we don't want to be a huge security risk in terms of another place where all your data lives. But the nature of what we do is that we take data from one service and move it to another one. But we only do that when a user has explicitly said, that's what I want to have happen by turning on an applet. Let's see. Other questions. Somebody's asking, I think it's J Ho is asking, will you ever create hardware? That's a really good question. In fact, we've had a number of advisors, different folks in the industry have really kind of either pushed us to do that or suggested that. And one of the reasons we haven't, maybe first off, creating hardware and software is really, really hard. It's a lot of work, and we have a whole lot of respect for the companies on IFT or any company that is looking to create some kind of connected hardware. It just, it's kind of doing it all at once, and it's got to be really, really tough. But a lot of people are getting better at it. The other reason we haven't done that really goes back to one of the other principles that we have is to be as neutral as possible. So if isn't quite as successful as Google or Amazon yet, we're still kind of the David, not the Goliath. But if we were the Goliath, I think those principles would really force us to be very careful about trying to do it all. We're not looking to compete directly with the other services on the IFT platform. We really want to be neutral. We see that there's enough opportunity just in terms of moving data from one place to another or connecting the dots between all the services rather than trying to be one of the services themselves. And oftentimes people have really said, oh, shit, you already have all these integrations. You already have all this, kind of activity on the platform. Should we leverage that to either create a hardware-based service or some other type of service? But if that's going to compete with somebody else's business that is trying to do that one thing really, really well, then I can't ever say we'd never do anything like that. But I think our principle around trying to be neutral and just being focused on the connections between things rather than the things themselves would probably keep us from going down that path. Let's see. I might be skipping ahead here. If I don't get to your question, you can always ping me on Twitter. I'll try to get to everybody there over time. Let's see. Emberblaze is asking, would there be a way to use an applet with a Discord API? This is one I may not. I'm a Discord user. I'm also a longtime gamer, especially indie games. So really dig Discord. I don't believe we have Discord natively on the platform, though I have seen people use, we talked about the Maker webhook service. I've seen people use that, especially to kind of get information into their Discord community via a trigger. So you might check that out if that's possible. Or like I said earlier, ping Discord. Tell them you want them to be on IFT and tell them what the use case is, and they'll more than likely do that if they hear from enough people. Let's see. Sim is asking, how will 5G influence IFT's future? Oh, 5G. Wow. Something about 5G. I think it's either already or is on its way to becoming a hilarious internet meme. because I think if you've been to any kind of trade shows or conferences, there's a whole lot of hype around 5G. And at the end of the day, I can't quite understand what the big deal is, other than, yes, faster internet, more reliable internet, especially for things that aren't necessarily hardwired in or plugged into electricity all the time. That's going to be a big deal, and we've got to continue to expect and work to increase both speed and reliability. In that way, that impacts our business because the services on IFT take advantage of it. But I don't know if I know the spec well enough to point to specific features that either IFT or the services on IFT can take advantage of, other than the speed and reliability of it. Let's see, Radded MC is asking about two-factor auth. Yes, we have it. And I think we have a couple different ways to do it. I think the preferred way is to use an authenticator app. We also, I think, still support SMS, which is a little less secure if somebody can get access to your SMS messages. But check out, I think it's on the settings page on the web, and I believe we also have a link to it in the mobile apps as well on the profile page. You should be able to just turn it on and be good to go. Let's see, is there, Olet Pit 12 is asking, is there any chance we can get control of applets on off by trigger, time, or location? So you're basically asking, can you kind of meta program IFT? Can you have an action that like turns another applet on and off? And I think we actually did have something like that. We at least built it internally years ago, but we never launched it publicly, largely because it ended up creating a lot of weird kind of circular or kind of confusing things that I think a lot of folks, unless they were super patient, wouldn't be able to understand or would have a difficult time setting up. But I think as we go back, like I said, go back to really trying to build more for the end users that are looking for more power and more control, that's probably something we should consider, because I can see where there'd be some pretty cool things you could do if you could kind of tap into other applets from a single applet that you're using. Let's see, another question from Reddit and see, does IFT have servers in different locations? And on the idea of hardware, maybe it could be possible to have someone else host their own server for a fee of some sort. Interesting. Yeah, we've tried to stay away from hosting. There's so many other people that do that, whether that's AWS or otherwise. So we've tried to be pretty specific about what our business is. But we do have servers in different locations. We've built most of IFT is on AWS, and that is something that allows us to, whether it's the CDN or the servers or the database, really distribute that across the globe. We're still primarily, at least from an infrastructure standpoint, here in the U.S., and that creates some problems with latency in some situations globally. But it's one of the things that we're looking to do, both localize, so get languages and other things other than just English out to end users, but also bring our infrastructure to more places that improve that latency and make things a lot faster. Let's see, Joshua is asking, how long can it take to run the code in an applet? So if you're asking about the filter code, the feature that we're kind of working to release here later this year, I don't believe you can use a counter in any real way, although that's a great thing for us to add. I can see where that would be really valuable, to just kind of have some kind of simple counter that allows you to kind of access that data between applet runs. I believe there's a 10-second timeout. So if you do write JavaScript that takes longer than 10 seconds, we usually think, oh, there's either a problem, or we don't want to kind of host somebody's whole backend service. So there are some limitations there, but we really only do those to keep people from either shooting themselves in the foot or doing things that may not be on the up and up. So if there are some use cases that you'd like to see that are hampered by that limitation, please let us know after we launch that feature. Jim H is asking, what's the best way to learn how to use IFT? That's a good question. So I would say, just start by signing up. The easiest thing you can do, and what by far the majority of users do today, is basically just find other applets that have either been published by end users or by the services themselves, and just turn those on. Find a use case or find a service that you have. If you have Alexa or Philips Hue or iRobot, Todoist, whatever service that you use, see what are some of the use cases that have been published. And it's a pretty good kind of social indicator, how many people have enabled it over time. We have some applets that have been enabled by millions of people, a lot by hundreds of thousands of people. And that's a pretty good indicator that that's a good applet and a good one to try. If you're looking to figure out how to learn IFT, as someone that's going to create their own applet or even publish applets or even create their own service, there's kind of degrees of sophistication. I think we have a lot of work to do to create guides and better documentation. It's something we've invested in on the kind of developer/business side, but on the end user side, we haven't invested in that as much, and it's something we're looking to change. I would say, there's also lots of really great like YouTube videos. We've even seen a couple books written on IFT over the years. So I think just searching kind of IFT guide or IFT tutorial, you can probably find some good stuff that the community has created as well. Let's see. Tall applet chaining. That is a cool idea. I agree. Let's see. So how can I program a recipe from another app or script? And this is Motani. And I think I'd point you to the webhook service to start. But if you have your own business or your own service, even if it's just a startup or a personal project, you can actually add that brand to IFT, just like Dropbox or iRobot is on the platform with our developer plan. And that's just $199 a year, kind of like an Apple developer fee to make sure people are serious and committed. So if that's what you're asking, I'd encourage you to jump in, and we have a whole lot of documentation and some guides there that make that easy if that's what you're after. I think we've reached the end of questions here. A couple more from Reddit MC. It looks like you might be responding to someone else. Don is asking, is there a plan for a delay function? Yes. So that is actually, I can see where there's lots of great use cases there. That's a great thing. We've started to see some folks that have some early access to some of these new features, queries, filter, ask for that, and even try to implement some of those things like JavaScript, kind of pauses and things like that. Only goes to 10 seconds like I discussed, but it's one of the things that maybe we need to look to support natively, the ability to kind of add in some type of conditional or controllable delay, whether that's to run an action or to run a query. There's something there that could really open up a lot of other use cases. So yeah, Peter on our IFT team, our VP of marketing, is asking any last questions. And if I missed your question, I apologize. Sorry, I was kind of trying to read through really quick. Please ask me again on Twitter at @LTibbets. And I'll make sure and try to answer everybody. A little bit of clarification here from Montani. Wasn't exactly what you were asking. Question was about how can I create a recipe like if RSS do this, but not from the web interface, but from an API. Got it. We don't support applet creation via API. If you have a service on it, so if you're a developer, you can access some of the applets and some of the information, specifically something we call a connection, which is like a super powerful applet for businesses via API, and you can even update those. But even then, you can't create those. So maybe over Twitter, send me some more information around what you're looking to achieve. Maybe sounds like you're looking to kind of subscribe to a whole lot of things at once without having to waste all the time of clicking through the interface to get it all set up. Hins Chin is asking about how to get a Maker webhook. We'll start with go to the Maker webhook service, but the warning is there's a whole lot more that's kind of on your end, depending on what you're looking to do. So basically, you'd have to have your own URL to either allow it to post to it or allow us to subscribe to a webhook. And often that involves hosting your own service somewhere to provide those kind of APIs, essentially, is what a webhook is. Cool. I think that's all we'll have time for today. We're looking to do this every couple weeks. So as you have questions, you know that this isn't the only opportunity you have to ask them. And if you're interested in kind of coming back again or being a part of other types of things we're going to do, we're going to try to experiment a whole lot more with YouTube and some of the other platforms to get more connected and a lot closer to all the millions of users that have used IFT over the years, and we're so thankful for. Please do. And if you want to subscribe to the video or click the like button, I think you'll get a lot of updates for under that new stuff we do here on YouTube, including additional Ask Me Anything. So yeah, with that, thank you all. Always awesome to hear from all the smart, passionate folks that are using our product, and know that we're coming your way soon with hopefully some things that you're really going to enjoy and get a lot of use out of. We want to keep investing in this group, so we appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day. See you next time.